Is God against our freedom? You know, that's a great title for this short answer video, because where I'm sitting recording this, we are on the outskirts of Stirling in Scotland, and just a few miles down the road is the Wallace Monument, that great tower that commemorates William Wallace, the Scottish freedom fighter and hero, commemorated of course in the film Braveheart as well, that many people have seen. And there's that famous scene in Braveheart where Mel Gibson, playing William Wallace, utters that immortal battle cry, "They may take our lives, but they may never take our freedom." And you know, we live in a culture in which freedom really has become the supreme virtue. Freedom is what everybody wants. We want to be free to make the choices we make, live the lifestyle that we live without anybody telling us otherwise. And thus many people say, why would I take belief in God seriously? Why do I want to even consider Christianity? Because surely God it would offer a constraint, God would restrict my freedom, and who could want that? Well, to I think begin answering that question, it's worth thinking about the nature of freedom for a moment and how we define the word freedom. For example, sometimes the things we want to be free to choose contradict each other. We're not entirely free. By which, let me give you an illustration. Suppose I want to be free to eat 20 Cadbury's cream eggs every day, but I also want to be free to run a sub 5-minute mile. Those two freedoms don't go together. They clash. If I indulge my chocolate egg eating hobby, I am not going to be free to run the mile time that I want to. Other freedoms other times our freedom is restricted because it allows us to enjoy something that would not otherwise be possible. So a few years ago, I bought my first drone, and now drone flying is a hobby. And when I bought my first camera drone, it came with a very detailed set of instructions. And those instructions were quite specific on some of the things that I should and shouldn't do. The makers of the drone wanted to restrict my freedom to do certain things. And I remember as I got more confident with my drone thinking, oh, how dare they tell me what I can and can't do? And one of the things the instructions said was, do not fly the drone in woods. And one day I got it into my head that a really artistic shot would be to take my, £1,000 drone down to the local woods, at dusk, and film this really arty shot of the drone flying backwards through the trees. And the result is it got caught in branches, I broke 2 rotors, and did about £100 worth of damage. That restriction on my freedom wasn't there to stop my fun, it was there so actually I could enjoy the drone as it had been intended. And the same goes for life. Maybe there are constraints on our freedom that were designed to help us get the most out of life, not to restrict us. But one other thought as well, I think, and absolute freedom is also a problem because it destroys relationships. I've been married for 22 years, and shortly after getting married, I discovered that if I really wanted to flourish in my relationship with my wife, it didn't really work if I tried to exercise total freedom. If I claimed I could be free to go out to spend every evening at the pub till midnight without telling her, if I tried to say that I could be free to spend my money exactly as I wanted without discussing it with my wife, my marriage would probably not have made 2 years, let alone 22 years. Constraints makes relationships possible. And there's one other thought I think about freedom that's hugely important. You see, at the heart of the question of freedom is the fact that actually all of us are serving something. If we choose not to serve God, there will be something else that we effectively sacrifice our lives to and sacrifice our freedom to. For some of us, it might be our career. For some of us, it might be our standard of living, or some particular pursuit, or some sexual relationship. That particular thing that is everything to us has become almost, as it were, God to us. And the famous atheist writer David Foster Wallace once remarked, he said, in the day-to-day trenches of adult life, there is no such thing as atheism. Everybody worships something. So the only question really for you is not, can I be absolutely free, but which constraints am I going to submit to? Which constraints am I going to allow to restrict my freedom, particularly, and are those constraints going to cause me to flourish, or are they going to cause me to end in pain and sorrow? So if you follow Jesus, yes, there will be restrictions and constraints, but they will be the right constraints, the constraints on our freedom designed by a God who loves us and wants the very best for us, and a God who tells us in Galatians chapter 5, verse 1 in the New Testament that it was for freedom that Christ has set us free.